Hey everybody, this is episode 62 of the DCC. This week we have a special guest, Daryl from Story Geeks. He's here with us. Yes, hi. And it's going to be awesome. We had promised that this was going to be a host cube, but we are not doing that now. Josh is going to be interviewing a famous doctor. But
I saw that. I saw that on Facebook. Yes.
Yeah, so I'm extremely jealous and excited about that. But I'll let him. If you want to know what it is, follow him on Twitter or Instagram.
There you
go. This week we're going to talk the Movie News Weekly. We're going to have a bit of an animation attack because there's some cool concepts, not concept art, but like fan art, I guess, and of Chip and Dale Rescue Rangers. And we are going to do a non-spoiler and spoiler conversation about Avengers Infinity War. We always do this when there's a big Disney release. So please, even if you haven't seen the movie or if you don't want to see it, stick around for the non-spoiler version, and then we'll give you ample time to hang up before we spoil all the fun facts. Like everyone's an alien. That was weird. No.
Oh, too soon. Too soon, man.
To all who come to this happy place, welcome to the DCC. Hey Daryl, how's it going, man?
Good. How are you doing, man?
Good. So Daryl, you're on the Story Geeks Podcast. You also do a lot of Facebook Live through it as well. What's that experience like for you as an individual?
It's awesome. It's really fun. It's fun because Jay Shear, who I'm sure your listeners are quite familiar with.
Yeah, he's been on the show.
So he started everything, and he and I have been friends for a very long time. So it was really cool to kind of get invited to participate and be part of it with him. And now we've grown into co-hosts, and it's really fun. We get to talk about the stuff that we love. We get to talk about how it affects us and affects other people, and it's awesome.
How have you handled having like a growing and transitioning role with a friend? Going from being someone who was invited on to becoming, a 50-50 contributor of a show while still balancing your friendship.
It's interesting. It's even maybe a tad bit more complicated than that, because I've tried to start refraining from mentioning this on the air because I've mentioned it a lot when we first started, but Jay actually used to be my boss. So we worked together for 7 or 8 years. Okay. And he was the manager of our department. So, but we were friends before that, and we've been friends ever since. So it's really not a hard transition at all. Like, we're doing the same stuff that he and I always used to do. We're just doing it in front of people and bringing more people into the conversation now. So
interesting.
It's gone really well. We collaborate really well together, and he is a very natural leader. So I think he's really good at leading everybody on our team. There's actually 6 of us all together on the team. So it's been really good.
Yeah. And did you have to kind of, how do you feel like your performance has like grown and changed in like the last, maybe 6 months or so?
Yeah, dude, when we started, I thought I was terrible at it. And it's funny because I had a campus radio show in college. Mm-hmm. I won't say how long ago that was, but and when I go back and listen to that, it's frightening. Like, it's just awful. I hate listening to myself, and I was rude to some people, and I'm just like, so when this whole podcast thing came up, I'm like, I really want to do this, but my context is that I'm going to be terrible at it. And
rude. So, like, how do you feel like you're rude? Because I've been on your show and we've done some long form, 2.5 hour, 3 hour grinds of deep diving on Star Wars and stuff like that. Yeah. Which if you listen to Network 1901, you still haven't checked out Shannon and I on Story Geeks, and also when I go on and we talk more about Star Wars, you need to check that out, because that you kind of can see where Daryl and Jay and I kind of develop our relationship outside of Josh.
Yeah,
and
that was
Jay.
A really fun one too.
Yeah, it was fun. You were saying like you're being rude to people. do you think it was an age thing or a performer thing, or how you approached questions, or because I'm having a hard time believing that you were actually rude. I could believe that you probably thought you were rude, but I have a hard time actually believing you were rude.
Well, I appreciate that. No, I think it was an age thing. I mean, what was I? Probably 20 at the time. And also just, I wasn't trying to be rude. I was just trying to be funny. And I'm a sarcastic person by nature. And, the older we get, the more we learn when to be sarcastic and when not to. And
sure.
And now that I'm a parent, I tend to focus more on just stupid dad jokes and stuff, because that's an art that I get to develop, and you get that. You know how that goes.
Yeah, I do. Well, I'm kind of sarcastic with my kids, which has not been great. But yeah, no, I hear you. There's a fine balance, and I think sarcasm is such a type of comedy. No, I think all comedy is a dual participant, and how anyone reacts to a joke makes or breaks a joke. And so you need to kind of it's the comedians, the onus on the comedian is to know their audience, and the onus on the audience is to know it's a joke. Yeah. And sometimes in this type of format, you can't always tell the difference between commentary, information, and jokes. And
totally.
So yeah, it's a tough one to balance. Yeah. I get that.
But to answer your earlier question, I don't hate listening to myself anymore. I feel like I feel like I've learned, to talk a little bit better, which you probably wouldn't believe from how I'm talking right now. But I feel like, it's a skill, right? It's a muscle that you kind of develop and you get better at it. So yeah, it's been about a year and a half now, and I feel like I'm getting better, but there's always room to improve. So,
oh yeah, tell me about it. And especially, you think you're good now, and then in 6 months or a year from now, you're gonna be like, oh man, I sucked then too. It's always. Yeah. I have a saying for myself: I'm always ashamed of the man I was yesterday. So, it's and it's not as sad as it sounds. It's more of a kind of a play on what we think of ourselves. Before we move on to our movie news weekly and talking about the Venom trailer and Solo, I want to just someone left us a nice review on iTunes, and anybody can leave a review on iTunes, Stitcher, Podbean, wherever you want. Leave a comment down on YouTube, however you want to do it. But I just want to read this because I think people read them because they want to be a part of the show, and it's nice that they're supporting us. And this is the best way you can support us for free. So it's 5-star, and the title is Wonderful Content. I just recently started listening to the podcast after finding Network 1901 on YouTube. Which is nice, because we've always worried, do people go over to the podcast? Yeah,
it's always the other way around.
Yeah. I really like the expanded ideas brought to the podcast. The live shows in the DCC are great on YouTube, but Modern Mouse Radio is a really great show, and I'm backlogging all of those old shows. Gold Blooming won me over as well. I need to go back and check out all of the podcast serials they have done, but I like what I've heard so far. Keep it up. Oh, thank you so much. And that is from Breaker 1440. So I really appreciate that 5-star review. Thank you so much. And with that, we're going to get on to the Movie News Weekly. Daryl, the Venom trailer.
Yeah, the Venom trailer.
Okay. So it's funny how early in the morning when I saw the Venom trailer, it was like people are flipping out and loving the Venom trailer, and then a few hours later, it was like the internet's mad about the Venom trailer. Where do you feel? Where do you stand on this? How do you feel about the Venom trailer?
Right now I would have to say that as I watched the Venom trailer, I think if it was just a movie where Tom Hardy played a journalist who was investigating these creepy scientists that were doing something wrong, and they left it at that, I might be more interested. But once they showed Venom, to me, it doesn't look a whole lot better than it looked in Spider-Man 3, which is not a good sign.
I never had a problem with how Venom looked in Spider-Man 3.
Really?
I like Topher Grace, but I felt like he was miscast. Topher Grace maybe could have been a good Carnage, but not the Venom. Venom's supposed to kind of be, in my opinion, a little dumb, and I don't know if it worked for me. I also thought they might go with the Agent Venom which is what they're kind of doing.
Yeah.
Is they're kind of going for the more Agent Venom vibe. I don't know. Why do you have a problem with how it looks? Like, it kind of is taken straight out of the, I would say, Torment run of Spider-Man.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe it just looks too much like a special effect still. I don't know. I have trouble seeing it as a character. I don't know how you get around that. I mean, how else are you going to put a symbiote, or as the trailer would say, a symbiote? Yeah.
So stupid.
But, I mean, I'm going to see it because I love Tom Hardy.
Yes.
And
I like his accent. He's doing another unique voice in this one.
Totally. So, yeah, I love him. And, there are rumors floating around. I don't know if those were confirmed or not, but I've heard rumors about Tom Holland being in it as Spider-Man.
Yeah, I could hear him being mentioned or something along those lines.
But I'll definitely give it a chance. I want it to be good.
Yeah.
I'm unsure.
Yeah, it's a tough one. I don't know, like, kind of... It's exactly the story. Like, it's so basic. It's not... From the trailer, it's telling me a story that is, okay, sure. Like, I don't know. This is like another origin story with a symbiote and
symbiote
and but like, this is like, he's an anti-hero. Like, in your trailer, like, don't call it an anti-hero. Because now that doesn't really leave it up for interpretation, right? That's the interesting thing about anti-heroes, is there's always like a debate. Like, when like, for me, I like to talk about how Maui, and you're a huge Moana fan, but Maui is really the only villain or bad guy in the movie. He's the only obstacle that the character has to overcome.
Yeah, Taka is just misunderstood.
Exactly. Yeah, Taka isn't really.
Spoiler alert.
Yeah, but Taka's not really the bad guy. Taka is really just the good guy. It's the goal. And the Kakamora and Tamatoa are other obstacles in their way. But like, Maui does not make any of those situations better, and literally tries to kill Moana a couple times. So
that's true.
And that's the thing about anti-heroes that are interesting, and they've kind of taken that away now, because it's like, so they're just going to be able to kind of work together pretty quick, or like they're going to resolve this, like, I like to kill people, and it's like, well, I don't like killing people. Well, let's figure this out then. We'll be friends.
Yeah.
Like, all in a 2-hour film. And I think that's also kind of the ongoing problem with comic book movies, is trying to fit a serial of storyline and character arcs in a 2-hour film.
Yeah, and I think Venom's especially difficult because people who aren't comic fans really have no context for Venom being anything but a monster and a villain.
Right, and it was years before he started becoming this own kind of more complex character, and that was only because it was a popular villain that they wanted to take out of Spider-Man and have it run. And you can't just, I guess you could have just a pure villain comic book, but not in that era.
I was just thinking about that the other day. I was trying to figure out, do we have that? Like, are there any stories? I mean, mainstream comic book stories, I'm sure there are indie comics and stuff that do it, but do we have anything that really just tells the story of a villain? Not a villain trying to be a hero, but literally a villain going about their villain day,
Yeah, it's funny you said that. I actually think that we have may or may not recently just experienced that story arc, but that's for our conversations later, and I think to talk about it, it would be too spoilery. Yeah, I think just following a villain, it would almost be like a serial killer profile movie, or a storyline. And there is independent comic books that do that, for sure. Yeah. And that they're dark or very neutral. Sandman is a character where, it's just kind of a neutral character who doesn't really have too much vested in good or evil.
Yeah.
But yeah. Actually, kind of interesting, and you'd be a great person to talk to about this, is someone had brought to me, I think I was listening to Skeptic's Guide to the Universe, and they had brought up the idea that the most evil thing that we could do is believe that there is good and evil. And I thought that was a really interesting idea, especially just as we've had just very crazy moment yesterday with North Korea and South Korea. Everything's just it's all like water under the bridge now, I guess. This is so strange.
Handshake and it's all fixed.
Yeah, right. Like you have even this is silly, but Kanye West being so anti-George W. Bush and then coming out in the defense of Donald Trump, it doesn't compute in my brain, and all it tells me is that depending on how we feel or how we perceive something, it's all kind of gray, and we can see it white or black or good and evil. Do you find that in story and in story right now, that is kind of something that we're exploring, is the idea that there is no good and evil. It's all just what we're trying to do. Civil War is an example of Marvel doing that. I would say that Avengers Infinity War also balances on that. I think we may have even talked about it, how about a good Lex Luthor you should agree with until the very end, until you
when he tries to kill you.
Yeah, exactly. You should agree with Lex Luthor's point until you find out it was, then we'll kill 12 billion people. It's there's not even that many people.
Yeah.
What do you think about do you feel like that's happening in story right now, and do you think it's important for us to not be so black and white with good and evil?
I think there's definitely some of those stories being told, which is interesting. I mean, the gray area is always interesting in stories. From my perspective, I think good and evil is definitely real and should definitely stay in place, and we should tell stories from that perspective. Just like we talk about on the Story Geeks a lot. We've been not challenged, but we've been in situations where we have to talk about truth, and do we believe in absolute truth, or is everything relative? And Jay and I would both tell you that we believe in absolute truth, but it's nuanced. It's not simple. You know what I mean? There are nuances to truth. So
it's absolutely gray truth.
Yeah.
So it's absolute truth, but the truth is. So I guess what you're trying in that context is that you believe in an idea of there is absolute truth, but what that truth could be is maybe still in question or can change.
Yeah, and our interactions with it are complicated and very nuanced. So you take a story like Civil War, and I don't think that Tony or Cap were evil. I don't think that's a particular good versus evil story. They're both trying to stand up for something they believe in, but doing it in a way that isn't necessarily constructive to the other.
Right. And yeah, sorry, go ahead.
No, sure.
Yeah. Well, sorry.
We'll just step over each other all day. And that feels to me more like a real world example of that struggle for absolute truth, right? It's not I don't think any of us really set out to be evil. I'm just going to go out and do something evil today. Maybe other people do.
Except for maybe Kylo Ren.
But even Kylo Ren, do you think he just wants to be evil, or do you think he is a broken, unhealthy person who is just trying to do what makes sense to him?
I think that he doesn't see the dark side or the light side as good and evil, just like the Bendu don't see the dark and light as good and evil. And so he's using the dark side, as Anakin tried to do, just to gain more power. And right?
Sure.
It's just a tool. And just as Rey had discovered. Yeah, it's interesting with things like good and evil, and especially in the society where we're very analytical, how easy it is to trick ourselves into being analytical, and how important nuance is.
Yeah.
So, you were saying you don't think anybody, Captain America or Iron Man are inherently evil, but if I was to be so the warmonger weapons dealer who created a a psycho AI robot that was going to wipe out the world, and then signed a registration act for people with special abilities, which if you ever follow X-Men, you would know we're not pro that. he's not evil. But that's because if you just break down these simple things, you can paint anyone's picture being evil, and that's the thing, right? And that's why nuance is important,
Yeah, and I think that's why the Avengers stories are so good in such a way, especially Tony Stark's arc, because you're right, he does some things that a lot of people deem very evil.
Yeah.
But he's not trying to be evil.
No.
And there's a nuance there, but it's also kind of an evidence to me that there is a truth, because otherwise, why would he continue to try?
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, he's striving for a goodness and a truth. Otherwise, there's no point.
There has to be a universal truth, because how can two people do the same act, yet we could see one as good and one as evil?
Yeah.
Interesting. Very interesting. So, Venom trailer, I'm going to say 50-50.
Yeah.
50.
Yeah,
it was okay. I'm interested. Yeah, I'm interested.
Yeah.
I'm interested. Solo. So Han Solo. Apparently, there's rumors that he may have 3 films.
Yeah.
I particularly take that contract that was being talked about more of that. There's going to be 2 other appearances. More
in
so
other films.
In other films, more so than 3 solo centered films.
Is that specifically a contract for Ansel Elgort?
Yes.
Okay.
He said, he signed a 3-picture deal. Also, often you sign actors to multi-picture deals because, especially if you're doing something like Star Wars, you don't sign Rey or to a 1-picture deal, and you don't sign her to only a 3-picture deal. You sign her to a multi-picture deal because if you sign her to the 1 or the 3, by the end of it, the money that you have to pay her is way more. So you build in that pay scale in it, and when they're a young actor, they're like, yay! And but by the in 10 years, it's going to probably be way under their value as an actor. So that's why you do that type of thing. But do you think they will utilize the 3 film contract?
I don't know. I mean, whenever I see actors being put into multi-film contracts, especially within a single franchise, I always think to myself, I hope there's a clause in there that the studio can kill them off if they want to.
Well,
because
we can't do
it with Han Solo. I know. But that's true. We can't kill off Han Solo again.
Yeah.
Not when he's young anyway.
Yeah.
But I want to know that those stakes are there. So if you're watching the Marvel franchise, I want to know that it's possible that Tony Stark could die.
Yeah.
Not that I want to watch Robert Downey Jr. die, but that I want to believe there are real stakes in the story.
Yeah, you and I have that same problem with prequels and stuff, that it takes away any sort of tension or drama, because you inevitably know what the end result is going to be, which is part of my canon order of what when introducing someone new to Star Wars, follow the chronological order, because then there's drama.
Yeah.
Well, even though anyways.
Aren't we talking about doing a podcast on that someday?
Yeah,
together?
We are.
Because I actually disagree with you, but we'll save that conversation.
I know you do. A lot of people. Yeah, you can't always it is funny when you have a thought process where you're like, this way, and it's except for this one, because But so you sorry. So you do think that maybe he will be in other films, or they will do other ones?
Well, I'm not sure. I mean, my take on what I've seen so far from the first one is similar to Venom, with maybe a little bit more hope attached to it.
Okay.
And I guess it's a little more personal. Nothing about the trailers for Solo makes me think it's going to be bad in any way. They look cool.
Yeah.
It definitely looks cool. I think for me personally, I'm having a hard time with anybody other than Harrison Ford playing Han Solo.
Yeah.
But I'm going to give it the shot and see if it's good.
So I sent you this link. Becky and Frank, at Becky and Frank on Twitter and stuff, released these really cool, I think they're cool, Rescue Ranger. They're weird, and it's kind of like a nouveau art style, similar to like a lot of the kind of like Star versus the Forces of Evil, or maybe a little Gravity Falls-ish. But the Chip and Dale Rescue Rangers, Monterey Jack, Gadget, you know, they did a kind of a 90s version of it where she's like a hacker, which is interesting. That would be a good take on a new kind of version of Gadget. What did you like when I sent these to you? You were like, weird. What did you think of them, and did it make you kind of think about how they could revamp Rescue Rangers?
Yeah, I have not thought about Rescue Rangers in so many years, and so I think that's why I said weird, because I just hadn't thought about them in them. But the theme song came back to me, obviously, the Chip and Dale, you know.
Yeah.
But it looks cool. I mean, it's definitely a more modern take. It's sort of, to me, it had a bit of a Miyazaki vibe, even almost.
Maybe the shape of Monterey Jack and stuff is a little Totoro-esque, and I could see that. Yeah.
I mean, it looks like it could be cool if it was actually to turn into something. I mean, we got a new DuckTales, and that was fun.
Yeah, I like it. It's funny. I like those shows, and my kids like the shows, but we just, for whatever reason, we don't go out of our way to watch them. Yeah. There's something, I don't know what it is. I guess it's just like the PVR world. We'll watch them, we like them, and we'll watch a bunch of them, but then no one's ever like, let's sit down and watch DuckTales, you know?
Yeah.
Let's have our Marvel moment, because I am dying to talk about Avengers Infinity War. It's just been like countdown to when we can talk about this.
I know. And it's hilarious to me that I'm talking to you about it before I'm talking to Jay about it, but that's just the way this works out.
Take that. That's what you get for spending all that time with my friend. All right. So let's do our like non-spoiler. I want to know, I respect your opinion. That's why I wanted you on the show too.
Nice.
I like your thought process. What did you feel about Avengers Infinity War? Do you kind of have a placing for it already? And what's the most you can tell us about your thoughts on it without kind of ruining it for everybody?
Sure. Well, I definitely loved it. It was super fun to watch.
Yeah.
I think it's probably one of the best examples I've seen of a comic book on film.
I thought the exact same thing.
Yeah.
Especially with the use of this, with the use of the Reality Stone.
Mm-hmm.
There were things that were being done with it that I was like, wow, only in a comic book would they do something like that, like good on them.
Yeah, and it's really, I mean, more than anything else, they just really captured the essence of superheroes, I think, and put it in a movie.
Right.
So I definitely have some more complicated and less flattering thoughts about it that we can talk about when we get into the spoiler territory, but I loved it. I'm dying to go back and see it again.
It's a lot.
It is a lot.
It was too much. It was too much for my wife. I looked over, we were looking over at each other, and she was just looking at me laughing, because I laughed a lot in that movie. I was cracking up, and not.
It was funnier than I expected.
Not very many people were cracking up in the movie like I was, and then both my kids were I was like, wasn't that movie so funny? And they're like, that was a sad movie, Dad. I was like, what? It was hilarious. What do you mean? We just took such, it's so multi-layered that way. But it was a little much for my wife, who's kind of lukewarm to Marvel movies. She liked Thor Ragnarok, and so, which I would say, tone-wise, is pretty, this was a mix between Thor Ragnarok and Winter Soldier.
Mm-hmm.
But I could see near the end, I saw her just leaning over on her knees, just rubbing her head, there's so much action.
Was it just sensory overload?
Yeah, just so much action. How many cutaways lead to a different action scene? Every time, almost.
Yeah.
So I got that. I could tell. I knew it wasn't going to be that she wasn't going to She really enjoyed it. She's I know it's a good movie. It just was so much. It's too much.
Lot.
I can't take it all. It's too it's emotionally draining for her.
Yeah. I told my wife when we were watching it that it made me think of Dunkirk.
Yeah.
And Chris Nolan is probably my favorite film director, and I love Dunkirk. And his whole goal was to make a movie that was all third act.
Right.
Which he totally did, but it feels like Infinity War did it too, and it's a lot more fun.
Right. I would, because then there were it was a weird third act in Dunkirk for some parts then.
Yeah.
I agree with you. Yeah. The great thing that Avengers Infinity War accomplished was that it is a film unlike any other. It doesn't have a proper beginning, middle, and end. It's not linear. You have a lot of Star Wars, like, prequel things where like the plot is pushed forward for other characters even though they're not interconnecting and stuff, right? Like you have weird story elements like that, but it works, and it was the only way it could work, and it is kind of how comic books work. And it's almost a great making of a great film and in like a great filmmaking, even though it isn't a proper film. You know, like
it doesn't deliver the depth that a lot of the other Marvel movies deliver, specifically the other Russo brothers movies.
Well, that's the thing. Luckily, we have them. We know that they can do it, so we know they did this on purpose.
Yes, but it's just like sometimes you see an action movie and like all the tension's building up, and it's got to build up to this giant climactic thing, right? But then it doesn't deliver. Right. And you don't get the big ending that you wanted. I feel like Infinity War is the big ending that we wanted. Like, we are getting it.
Yeah. And the ending is interesting. I heard a lot of people in the movie theater I found like didn't get what was happening, and I thought that was strange. Because I think they talked about it a lot during the film about what was going to happen.
What baffles me is when people see these movies and the credits start to roll, people still get up and leave.
Yeah.
Like, have you never been to a Marvel movie before?
It was I don't know if the end credit scene was entirely worth it. Like, it was cool, but it kind of was like, I don't know.
I have thoughts on that too. I'll save it for the spoiler section, but I have thoughts there.
Well, let's wrap up this part of it, anyways. Just so for kind of initial Marvel ranking, where are you kind of putting it up against?
I'd put it definitely top 10.
Yeah.
Not top 5, probably.
Yeah.
For me, the top 2 are the other Russo brothers films. Winter Soldier is my absolute favorite, followed by Civil War. And then you get down to stuff like Black Panther, the original Iron Man, the first Guardians of the Galaxy. So I would say Infinity War is probably sitting somewhere around 6 or 7, maybe.
Yeah.
Something like that.
You know, the thing I loved about it, too, is I never felt that no one had enough time. I felt like everyone had a good amount of time, good screen. Like, obviously, you have like your side characters that like never get very much time, anyways, and you got like War Machine like walking around or whatever. Who cares?
Or like Hawkeye and Ant-Man who just get mentioned.
Yeah. Which is fair enough. There's so much going on, but I felt like they really evenly distributed the film. I was shocked. I don't know if I could say shocked, but Thor and Guardians is like all win. Like, it was so enjoyable. Totally. Oh man, Peter Quill it's just so good. I loved it. For me, I'm definitely like Guardians Volume 1 and Volume 2, Winter Soldier, Iron Man. I really like the Thor films too. Like, a lot of people put Thor films really low down, but for me, I actually felt like though the Thor films got the tone of Marvel movies right before before Captain America did, before Iron Man had found it and then lost it and then kind of found it again. So like I felt like Thor is in some ways the most consistent. Say what you will about number 2.
Yeah, and Guardians gets all the credit for broadening things out into the sort of cosmic realm, right? And seeing all that stuff. But Thor, the Dark World, really did a lot of that too. Yeah,
that's right. And they adjusted Thor to kind of fit in Guardians a little bit more, which it totally worked. I think it really, really worked.
For sure.
All right, so this is your opportunity now to pause, like go watch Avengers, and then come back to us, or
fair warning, last chance.
Keep listening if you're one of those crazy people who love spoilers. Like, I don't know why you would. So this is your opportunity, and your warning is ending now, because now we're going to talk about all of it. And so everyone died.
Almost.
Yeah. But that was one of the things I found that was so interesting, was how hard of a time people were like, what's happening? I'm like they're dying. They said with a snap of his finger he will wish away half a planet. You know, like they told you what he was going to do. Like
he himself told you that's what he wanted to do.
Yeah. And then he did it, and then it was done. He did it.
Yeah.
Did you like the characters they chose to die?
Yeah. So I loved. It sounds mean to say I love deaths, but
yeah.
I like that we finally are getting some consequential deaths in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, because I don't feel like we have a ton of that.
Well, the real ones like Loki, Gamora.
Right, Loki and Gamora was that I thought that made a lot of sense to the story. Here's where I'll get into one of my gripes, because I'm not as big a fan of all of the finger snap deaths at the end, if they're even deaths, because one of my big fears
easily
for
having deaths, but yeah.
Well, that's the thing. Like, I was really afraid that they were going to do a story where let's have all this massive consequences take place that we know we don't really have to stick to because we have the Infinity Stones in our story.
Right.
And I was hoping we would get something more than that, but it feels like that's exactly what we got.
I agree. There's no way all the characters that died are going to be dead.
Yeah. Yeah, especially not when we know there's another Spider-Man movie and another Guardians movie, another Black Panther movie, and all this stuff.
Right. Well, Black Panther, it could be a different Black Panther. Some different person takes the mantle, and maybe they, maybe they do move on to Miles Morales. All these things aren't going to happen.
Yeah.
But
so
but it's almost like by who they killed, they kind of lowered the stakes.
Yes. And they sort of made the 3 deaths that happened in the movie before that a little less valuable.
Yeah, but that was gonna if they're gonna lose, they had to lose some. That was gonna happen anyways.
Yeah.
I was shocked when I saw Spider-Man go away, and when I saw Peter Quill and Drax, and I was like, why is all of the Guardians of the Galaxy dying?
Yeah, except Rocket, right? Rocket made it through, didn't he?
Right, yeah, everyone but Rocket, which is an interesting arc for Rocket, because he really relies on those people, emotionally.
Yeah. Right.
I that was curious to me, is why to kill all of them. It's weird to not take the opportunity to kill Iron Man when he, when you can't,
yeah,
he could have legit, there's some weird things like that, but I know there's another story, and that's the thing, that this, no matter what they want to say, this was part 1.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, that was a marketing ploy to make you think otherwise.
Right.
And it was a good one.
Yes. But I love the end. I love Thanos just sitting and watching the sunset. It's such a comic book ending. He's like, yep, I did what I went to do. Yeah. I leaned over to Dash, and as Thanos was talking one time, and I was like, Thanos is an environmentalist. That's weird.
It's true. He's just trying to conserve.
He's just trying to conserve resources. It's super strange. His whole, his whole, and great villain, because I agree with him. He's right. You can't, if you believe in any level of science, you'd have to that makes sense. Yeah, okay, sure. Limited resources, you want less people, sure. I don't agree with wiping out everybody, obviously, right. But yeah, okay, I get it. You need to at least see and understand their perspective.
He's a great villain. I mean, he's a great character,
right? It just, and which was risky, because they haven't always had great villains.
Yeah, especially not CG villains. I mean, you look at the grand history of CG villains, and there's not a lot of great ones to talk about, but he's fantastic.
I would almost say that if it's an ensemble film, but that he kind of really was the main character of this film. Yeah,
it's really his movie.
Yeah, and that was,
which, if you look at it
choice.
That way, it does seem deeper. Because if you focus on just the heroes, it doesn't seem as deep, because there's just so much to deal with, and there is a lot of action and a lot of fighting and less character-centric moments. But with Thanos, you get a ton of them.
Yeah, and I was on that journey with him. I was right away, as soon as he was like, yeah, you have to one soul for another. I was like, oh man, like he legitimately does love Gamora. Like he's more complex than Gamora gave him credit for. You know, because she doesn't really listen to him. She's not really hearing what he's saying, and you know, and in his mind, he's like, yeah, no, I saved you. And it's like, well, no, you killed everybody. It's like, no, like, that's my job. That's what I got to do.
Yeah.
I made sure you didn't die.
It's just business.
Yeah. But like, is it like, okay, like, you know, the Titans were higher beings than us, right? The reason why they are given the name Titan is to have that allusion to the Titans of ancient Greek mythology. Are the ones that have come before us, really. You also get that with Ego. Ego is a celestial, right? And he also had the same opinion, the exact same opinion as Thanos. Are we wrong? Are we wrong for thinking they're wrong? Because why, when we go to these omniscient characters, these all-powerful characters, do they come to these conclusions that we're unwilling to come to the conclusion to?
Well, I think this is where we start to get back at the nuance of truth, I think. Because I would say, yes, they are wrong because they're not paying any attention to the nuance of truth. They're taking one fact about the situation and then making a choice that affects everybody. Whereas, in some ways, yes, they are right. There are less resources than there are people, and our planet is slowly deteriorating. But the solution is not just to kill everybody. You know what I mean? Like,
it's a solution, not the solution.
Yeah. That's a very obvious nuance, but it's complicated, and making a blanket choice like that to just wipe everybody out I feel like that's pretty clearly evil. I mean, that's genocide. It's hard to argue against that being evil.
So are you of the mind, though? So one of the themes in Captain America, which this is how I would assume Captain America will die, is he has to sacrifice himself to save more, to bring all those people back to life, right? Because he says we're not trading lives. Yeah,
they hit that a few times.
But because that's what Thanos is saying, is we're gonna trade lives. But if you're in a Captain America moment yourself, right, and you're in this plane, you could save millions of lives and sacrifice your own life. Maybe there's another person on the plane with you. Maybe there's 2 lives.
Yeah.
Would you be willing to make that sacrifice to save, 10 million people?
I would hope so. It's hard to say. Like, when you ask a question like that, I think of Interstellar. Yeah. And I think of Matt Damon's character from Interstellar, and when he says our brains are unwilling to make I'm not saying this right, but basically he points out that if you think about the world at large and all of these people that you don't know, you won't make the leap to save them. But if it's somebody right in front of your face, you'll do anything to save them,
So, but if we work on the scale that Thanos and Ego are working at, they're trying to save trillions. They just have to kill trillions to do it.
Yeah.
So, it's just a level of scale. Like, what level of amount of deaths would we be uncomfortable with to save another group of people, right? Like, for it's easy to say, like, yeah, I'll sacrifice myself to save 10,000 people. Sure, I'd sacrifice me and Josh to save 1 million people. But would I sacrifice 10,000 people to save the entire planet?
And to save them from what? I mean, that's an important part of the discussion, because what is he trying to save them from? Save them from nature, from the natural course of entropy,
the limitations of the universe, really, I guess.
Yeah.
And he makes such a great point. Like, he makes a great point to Gamora. He's like, we were happy, and he's like, no, you weren't. You were peasants, like, scrounging for food. Like, that planet is happier than they've ever been now.
And there's the nuance. He doesn't understand how you could be happy in that context.
Right.
But if that's your context, you find a way to be happy.
Right. He needed to travel through India for a while and see that people could live differently and be happy.
Yeah.
So now I guess we'll kind of break it down in the sense of, I had a hard time caring about Vision, because he's probably the least developed, like Scarlet Witch and Vision are the least developed characters that we're supposed to care a lot about. A lot of our emotion is riding on how much we're supposed to care about them.
Yeah.
Do you think it was handled well, though?
I think it was handled as well as it could have been within the context they were given. I think if there's a misstep in how Vision was treated, I actually think it happened in Civil War, not in this film.
Right.
Because you had this super, super powerful being in the midst of basically this fist fight. And he could have changed everything, but he just kind of sat there and didn't do a whole lot until he accidentally shot Rhodey down. And so I think they just sort of mistreated the character in that film.
Yep.
And it wouldn't have been hard. We just talked about this in another podcast that we did with Bobby Nash. But it wouldn't have been that hard to fix it. I think all you would have had to do was have him talk a little bit more about why he wasn't getting involved. Because I think he had a good reason. He cared about the catastrophe that would come from it. And I feel like that's why he didn't get into it. It was a choice. But they could have driven that home a little bit more. And then we would have cared more about his perspective. Thus, I think, cared a little bit more about him in Infinity War.
Yeah, I feel that everyone was so oh, we don't trade lives for lives. It's like really? It's like, you're not going, this computer that you guys created by accident and put an Infinity Stone in, you're not willing to sacrifice it for the entire universe?
Yeah, and it was weird to me, too, when they were saying that he was made up of Jarvis and Ultron and Tony and Banner. And I'm like, really? Because to me, I guess that's true, but to me, he's just Jarvis with an Infinity Stone in his head. That's how he feels.
Right, because of his voice and because Paul Bettany played Jarvis.
Yeah.
That's true, but they in Ultron, they do talk about how Ultron was created as a mixture of Bruce Banner and Tony Stark. That's why he has that weird sense of humor.
Yeah.
But it's tough basing that type of stuff off the least favorite movie, right?
It is, because mechanically he has to be there, right? Because he has an Infinity Stone in his head.
Yeah, but we're all just kind of wanting to forget about it. It'd be if Whiplash came back. You're just oh, please go away. Speaking of comebacks, though, I flipped when I saw Red Skull.
Oh my gosh, that was amazing.
Awesome.
I didn't figure it out with just the voice. I knew I kind of recognized the voice, and I know that wasn't really Hugo Weaving, but they did a good job mimicking it. But I didn't know who it was until they showed his face, and then I was like, oh. Yeah,
it's weird why they couldn't have got Hugo Weaving to do it.
I just don't think he wanted to. He didn't even want to finish the first movie he did.
Really?
Yeah, he had a terrible attitude about it.
Oh, what a jerk. But actually, I recognized the voice, but I couldn't say who the actor was who played Red Skull, because it's someone that we know.
Yeah, it did sound familiar.
Let's find out here.
Maybe it actually is him. I'd be surprised if it is.
No, it's a new actor.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh, it's Ross Marquand. Walking Dead.
Yeah, does he play Eric or Aaron?
Yeah, can't remember what his character's name is. It's been a while.
Wow, that's random.
Yeah, I was like...
Although I guess if you've got Denai Guerrero in there, you may as well just grab some connections, right?
Right, that's probably 100% what happened. The casting director, right? So yeah, I loved that bit, and it was a cool way to just get him in there, because I think killing Red Skull was a bad choice at the end.
Well, it never felt like they killed him. It just felt like the Tesseract teleported him away, and we just haven't known where he's been this whole time. And
then I guess and that's true, and they did, and now we know.
Yeah, yeah.
Which is good, because it means he can return if we wanted to. And have Bucky maybe try to fight him or something.
And I would love to see that too, because now, having gone through this, I'm dying to know more about what happened to him and what it's done to him since then.
Bruce Banner's arc is interesting. One, just him coming back and being like, oh yeah, he hasn't like seen these guys in a long time.
Yeah.
But then him and Natasha have their scene, and like that was it. That's it. They have like a moment, and then it's awkward, and then that's it.
That's it. And another thing I keep thinking about is, and I had to think through the mechanics to realize why this works, but Thunderbolt Ross is, like General Ross, is still a character in this world, and he's the father of the love of Bruce's life, right?
Right.
So I had to think, technically they haven't interacted yet, because Bruce was not in Civil War, and he didn't see him in this film.
Oh yeah, that's right.
But I'm just like, I just think about that, and I'm like, he's so close to something that's so important in his life. There's nothing there, you know?
It's weird that they added that to tie that back into Incredible Hulk, just to make it seem like they had it planned the whole time and there was no Ed Norton issues.
I had this elaborate theory in my head last night that maybe Ed Norton still is the real Bruce Banner. Because if you think about it, so our current Bruce Banner, Mark Ruffalo, has never met Thunderbolt, never interacted with Ross on screen. And Tony never interacted with Edward Norton on screen. He just knew about the Hulk. So what if there is this elaborate thing where
there's two Hulks?
Ruffalo plays an imposter and Ed Norton really is the original Bruce Banner. It's not going to happen, but it'd be cool.
The trope of not having Hulk want to come out because he got beat up one time. Yeah. That's interesting. I like it's a good use of it, right? But it's something they do in anime a lot, where like the hero of the story he's always like trapped in some sort of situation away from the team, and like like Goku, he had to like run across like a stupid snake bridge for 24 episodes before he could save everybody at the end.
It came across a little goofy to me, to be honest. And conceptually it's cool, but I feel like they addressed it mostly as jokes here and there. Yeah. So it was cool to see him in the Hulkbuster armor. Yeah. For some reason, I was expecting that to actually be Hulk in the Hulkbuster armor and not just Bruce.
But like that wouldn't be beneficial anyway. It's not like it would make him extra strong, right? So
yeah, that's true.
I loved Spider-Man and Guardians and Doctor Strange. I think that was a great team up. I liked all the team ups. I thought it was excellent and well balanced that way. I'm shocked that the Wakanda scene was at the end, to be honest. I actually thought that was going to be the beginning of the movie. I didn't actually think it was going to be the end of the movie. Yeah. The trailers did a really good job at misleading us with everything.
That one triumphant shot, though, in the trailer is not in the movie, of like Cap and Black Widow and Black Panther and everybody running at the screen. Yeah. Or running at the camera. I missed that shot.
It's interesting. I felt like it was weird that that there was just like no tactics from the bad guys. Like they just were like, let's just go like as straight line as we can.
And no like introduction to them either.
Yeah, well, which is do we like? Could we have the time to introduce all these characters?
I know.
We got the Maw. I think the Maw was the only one that was really that important. Yeah. For that, but like, why wouldn't all of those creatures attack around the force field anyways? Just because there's an open, can't they be directed? Like that's a great point. Why aren't you attacking from behind? Why aren't you attacking where the good guys are defending?
And of course, the real answer is because it would shorten our story.
Yeah, right. What was like a couple of your favorite moments?
I loved the first appearance of Cap and the rest of the team to help out Vision and Scarlet Witch. Yeah. Like even having seen that in the trailers, but just seeing it in context in the movie was awesome. I would say the scene, I forget the name of the planet, but when they're looking for the Soul Stone, when Thanos and Gamora are with the Red Skull, and that moment when you realize that Thanos is going to kill Gamora, that moment was very impactful and very dreadful for me. And then ironically, when she actually died, I didn't feel a whole lot. The threat of it was scarier. Yeah. Thor's triumphant battle at the end with the axe and the
I can't.
That was great.
Having Groot's arm be the handle to the axe is just so good.
Super cool. Yeah.
Super cool. Like, what a great little connection that is.
Yeah. And then when Peter Parker was dissolving and like grabbing Tony and like, I don't want to go, like, help me, like, that was heartbreaking.
Yeah, what's up with the, like, wouldn't everyone dissolve at the same time? Like, well, why are there different lengths? And classic movie.
Why did it take Nick and Maria so long?
yeah. Yeah. Yes, let's talk about that. Nick Fury is back for first time we've seen. Is it the first time we've seen him mentioned in a Marvel movie again since he died?
Since Civil War?
Yeah. Oh yeah, he popped up in Civil War, didn't he?
Oh no! I'm sorry. I was thinking of Winter Soldier.
Yeah,
my bad.
Yeah, have we seen him in any end credit? I feel like he maybe had said something, but I don't, because I watched Agents of Shield, so I kind of know that he was kicking around. But yeah. I feel like Winter Soldier might have been the last time. Yeah, crazy. So
oh no, Age of Ultron was after Winter Soldier, and he was in that.
Yeah.
We could sit and try and figure that out. But
who cares? Yeah, that's
but it was cool to see him, and it was cool to see Maria Hill again too.
Yeah. What did you like? What do you think about the tie-in to Miss Marvel or Captain Marvel? Sorry.
Yeah. So the Captain Marvel thing, it was exciting. It was exciting to see the right colors, to see the red, blue, and yellow.
Which was it was weird because like, what's up with the costume then? Like.
Yeah, like we know the movie's in the past. We know the movie takes place in the 90s, so maybe it's like a first iteration of the costume. I don't know. But it was nice to see the right colors. It was definitely exciting to see the first real reference to her. But I'm curious to see how it's going to play out. I don't want it to be the kind of thing where she swoops in and saves everybody.
Yeah.
Because to me that sort of belittles all the other characters that we've spent 10 years with. You know?
Yeah, and she shouldn't be any more powerful than Hulk or Thor or Captain America.
Yeah.
Right? Like those, strength level wise on the rating, like they're all the same. And again, too, Hulk technically, even though they haven't really shown this, Hulk is endlessly strong. Hulk is supposed to get stronger as he fights more and more.
Yeah.
Right? And that is one of the kind of the things that bugs me a bit with his fight with Thanos. I don't feel like he held his own as well as he should have. Like, I don't think Thor held his own as well as he should have, because like, you're now saying that Gamora and Nebula, which is okay, like they are the children of Thor, they should be on par, but are stronger than those characters.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm super excited to see her. I just hope that they honor the characters we already have in the process. So
yeah, I agree. Well, Daryl, thank you so much. For
man,
on the
thanks
show
for
and talking
having
with
me.
us. Yeah, it's been awesome. It's been a delight. The hour flew by.
Yeah, it did.
Yeah. So where's the best place people can find you?
Yeah, go look up the Story Geeks pretty much anywhere. iTunes, Podbean, all those good places. You can find us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. We do a weekly podcast and then also a weekly live show most weeks on Thursday nights.
Yeah.
And so you can go to thestorygeeks.com to learn more about that. Storygeeks.org is our blog. There's all kinds of stuff out there. And we like to dig deep into comics and sci-fi stories and superhero stories and stuff like that. Half of which these days seems like they come under the Marvel, the DC, the Disney umbrella.
Yeah, the Disney umbrella, right.
Which is why we get to hang out with you guys and talk together. So,
yeah. No, it's Disney's just kind of taken over, right? So
seems that way. But they're doing good. They're putting good stuff out. So
yeah, I agree.
I got no problem with it.
Yeah. Again, thank you so much for coming on the show, man. I know I messaged you a little last minute, so thank you for taking the time out of your weekend for us. And
absolutely,
I really appreciate it. Well, with that, I'm Del Wetland, and this has been episode 62 of the DCC. Please leave a review or comment, hit that like button, and I will see you in a galaxy far, far away. Bye, double hand wave.
Do I do that too?
Yeah, it's perfect.